on this glorious sunny day, I think everybody's having this wonderful weather that we're having here in Toronto. We ask for the guidance and wisdom of the ancestors who went before us and those whose lives were lost in the Middle Passage, as we commune weekly in this book club of Urugu. And particularly, we ask the ancestors to hold and guide us through this study group. As we pour libations, I want you to keep in mind ancestors whom to you embody the principles that we will pour libations for, and also the people who guide you in this earthly life. The response is Ashe, so be it. So we pour libations for all who dare to define, defend, and develop our interests as people. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour for our ancestral land. We say Ashe.
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 For our people then and now, we say Ashe.
Ashe.
For our children and those yet unborn, we say Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour for Kawaida, Nguzo Saba, and Ma'at. We say
Ashe.
For the systems of views and values which give identity and purpose to our lives, we say Ashe.
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 For the new world we struggle to build and for the continuing struggle to reconnect, reconstruct our history and humanity in our own image and words according to our needs. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
We also ask the ancestors to drink heartily and quench your thirst. Okay? Ashe.
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 It is finished, it is done. Ashe.
Ashe.
Mr. Bacchus. It's not bad.
Sunshine just texted me saying something came up, she won't be able to make it.
Okay.
Your questions were too hard.
I'll make them simpler the next time. So, how do you want to get this still on the road?
Well, like I always ask, does anybody else besides Lindis have questions or any statements? Nobody? The teacher don't have nothing to say.
Thinking.
Come on, Lindis, I guess we're gonna go with your questions.
Okay, so just to preface this, I just thought I'd throw some questions out just to get the conversation started.
Ooh,
Somebody's blowing their nose.
that hurt my ear. Who's
Right.
that?
I think it was Yemi. Yemi, we've outed you. So I just thought of a few questions that came up as I was reading the book, this chapter rather. Question one, and these are to stimulate discussion. It's not because, we're trying to make it more difficult than it could be. What are the ways in which Annie describes the reinforcement of the Asili with regard to the negative image of the other and the positive images of the Europeans in section 1 and 2 of chapter 5? And how does this feed the white nationalism according to Annie? So really, it's asking, how do they, as we've seen throughout the book, we keep getting a description of the Europeans that's positive, the other as negative, and she keeps reinforcing with each of her chapters the methodology and the energy that feeds the Asili. So this section, image of others, what's the name of the whole chapter?
Yeah, I think that's this.
Is that the whole chapter?
Yeah. Image of others, that's it. Chapter 5.
Okay, yeah, and the next chapter, yeah, the image of others, the first two sections, why the other is black and non-white, and the image of others, the complement of the European self-image. So what do people get from those two sections that describe the reinforcement of the Asili, according to Annie? Anybody have any?
Anybody want to go first? Anybody want to go second? Well, with the Europeans, they're silly. They can't have they're silly without having the other. So there's like a codependent on being able to justify their culture and looking at everybody else's. Their culture can exist without having an enemy.
And the first sentence of chapter 5 says, the persistence of the European Utamoroho is inherently dependent on the image that Europeans have created of their opposites. The image of others, the dialectical antithesis of the European self-image, helps to define it. So she goes through these chapters just really reinforcing what they are compared to what they think we are.
And also there's always a creation of a dichotomy. Every time there's a separation, you notice that? Everything they're doing, there's a separation. You know, and there's this is a common theme in the African-centered community, and even the ones that deal with esoteric stuff, you know, spiritual stuff. There's always this separation, this division. And this is why in her chart she has when she says a phenomenon, and then I think she says subtracting the interconnectedness of everything. I think this is what they always do. You know? And I'm actually trying to hold myself in because it's related to the other part where she talks about fear.
But also in this chapter, this section rather, she talks about Christianity and anthropology. And this was interesting because I know you were looking at doing an anthropological study, how they feed into the energy of creating the Asili. Anthropology, because anthropologists have helped to build a relationship between Europeans and other people. This is page 281. Yeah, child to adult. There's that theme that she talks about, child to adult. The high culture being the adult culture, I suppose, as the European, and the child is us, I'm assuming. That's interesting. Anthropology reinforces some of that.
You know, when I read this, page 81, where it says anthropologists sometimes use the term, you know, where it goes into evolutionists in the ethnological theory related to European Atamuwazu. That section, when I read this whole section, it just brought me back to what Dr. Carruthers said, and where he said we have to be careful with universal evolution. And by that is applying evolution to everything. And really evolution is okay when you just leave it in biology. And here they will use evolution as they've been trying to find themselves, right? At first they say they were the first, and then they realized everywhere they went, they weren't existing. And then they found out, okay, we're the new kid on the block. Okay, now since we're the new, and since evolution in their mind has this linear path of being better and better, they think they're the better race because they're the last who were developed, who came out.
Hotep, everyone.
Hotep, Veronica. Hey, Linda, you may want to read that question to Veronica that we're dealing with.
We're just discussing question 1, Veronica.
Oh, yeah.
I put it in the chat as well.
This was such a powerful chapter.
Yes.
Such a powerful chapter. Oh, my goodness.
Ooh, I'm ready to hear you all, girlfriend.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Do you want me to read the first question? We're just on the first question.
Okay, I'm just going to open up my stuff here.
Okay, so while you're opening up, what are the ways in which Annie describes the reinforcement of the Asili with regard to the negative image of the other and the positive images of Europeans in sections 1 and 2 of chapter 5. How does this feed into white nationalism, according to Annie?
Go ahead, girlfriend. I want to hear you out.
Section 1 and 2.
Oh my goodness. Well, it actually is the whole basis for it, because what it does is provides them with a justification for it. I found that a lot of what was being said was just pulling in together so many things that we've looked at. It looked at that whole idea of self-imagery, and in order for the Asili now to really be continuous, in order for them to continue now to expand and make sure that they maintain the power and the dominance, they had to create an image now that was the absolute opposite of who they are, and then make that image that they created of themselves be the one that was superior, and not just superior, but exclusive. And as they built on their image, what they were doing is actually consolidating the whole idea of what this Asili will be as they continue to dominate. It fueled every single action that they've taken against anybody other than themselves. And I don't know, that's where it started to lead. I mean, there's so much more to it, but
Yeah.
Well, the Asili led to this.
mhm.
You know, so it wasn't they're not fueling the Asili. The Asili, they're living out the Asili.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You understand? So
Yeah, the Asili actually demands that they have to have something to go against. It's always,
Yeah.
it always has to be this dominance over something in order for this Asili to feed it to really survive. That's where it comes from. So
they need that enemy.
They didn't
They
have
need
that, right? It's like the energy that drives it. If
Yeah.
they didn't have that opposite force kind of, giving it fuel,
They are.
it wouldn't survive. So they must have that negative stuff, something out there to make them feel like it's like they're positive. Yeah, it's like you're stepping.
There's an equal and opposite reaction to everything. This is the whole thing playing out. To every reaction, there's something else going on. So it had to evolve that way. And then section 2 talks about the other being black, non-white. And interestingly, in this section, they talk about the yellow, the brown.
Hold on. Robert looked like when Verona was talking, Robert looked like you wanted to say something.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm good. My wife is messing with my daughter.
Oh, okay.
My bad. I got distracted.
So could I go back to what I was saying then, Robert? Yeah, so in the section 2, black being at the lowest of the totem pole below yellow and brown people. And they describe the yellow race, the brown and yellow peoples have contributed greatly to the civilization of the world, page 283, and have profoundly influenced human progress. The Negro, on the contrary, has contributed virtually nothing. We need to shoot that go below. Left to himself.
Well, they're lying, and they know they're lying.
Yeah.
Like this is now where there's a cultural ceiling where like you're born and you're dividing things up, but now this is like actually maintenance of the reality.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Right? The reality is they know themselves there is not true.
Yeah, it's like the big lie.
The very
Why do you-
reason. Go ahead. What was the
No,
question?
so basically, I call it devil's advocate. Why do you think? Why do
No,
you think?
hold on. We just went.
No,
We just went with Lindis. Hold on. No. We just went with Lindis because what devil advocacy does, it changes the subject matter, and we just talked about
we got used it the wrong way.
Well, let's see what Robert's gonna do. Let's see.
No, hold on. No, hold on 1 second. Keep it on the subject. All right.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Like I said, maybe I probably used the term incorrectly. I was saying like
Say what you're gonna say.
I
Don't.
was just proposing,
Hold on. I'm trying to hear
why do you think like it's a blatant lie? Why do you think he would be I assume it's a he. Why do you think he would write that blatant lie and something that's like kind of easily to disprove? And basically I'm saying like, so why do you think he would write that specifically? And then do you think like his definition of contribution is different than our definition of contribution? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the sense, like, do you think that contribution to them is like only maybe when he says contribution is like how many people did you, how many kingdoms did you take over? How many crowns do you got on your head or something like that? How many titles that you have? And they're like, do you think straight up I want to write down misinformation, or hold on.
Because I don't know why she's shaking her head, because what you're saying is not clear. Because contribution to how many crowns you got, when you say contribution, give an example what you mean in terms of how they may mean what is contribution.
So like a difference in definition, how like if you was to go in Europe, you're like,
a different definition
for contributions.
We know what contribution means, and he knows what contribution means. What is
Robert is saying the definition of the word contribution. I'm not saying I agree, but I think what you're saying, Robert, is that what does that word mean when he wrote it, as opposed to what does the word contribution mean for Gobineau, as opposed to maybe what we are thinking contribution means as a word. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
how their definition of like a European definition of king, even though using the same word, it is different than Bantu definition of king.
But they're not the same word, and they don't have the same definition. Nesubiti is not a pharaoh, for example. Nesubiti is supposed to be the real word for what they say pharaoh or king, but they're not equivalent. They're not the same.
No,
I know that. I'm saying like when he's writing this down, like when saying contribution, like,
to be blunt,
what do you think his example of a contribution to civilization? That's what what do you think he would say as an example?
To be blunt. Hold on, brother. I'm gonna answer your question. To be blunt, I don't care what he thinks, because he's a racist Tamu, right? So in terms of contribution, what they have said is, and what they always say is talk about science, civilization, and all that. That's what they talk about when they talk about contribution. Even now, they're still trying to claim the Nile Valley as they're being the ones who civilized it. So this is what they're talking about. I mean, there were arguments. What's the white lady's name who went against out of Egypt, or it wasn't stolen out of Greece? What was that lady? Marion Ledgewit. I forgot her name. Who had a debate with Dr. Clark, and Dr. Clark demolished her.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But I think at the beginning of this chapter, it says that Gobineau he's a white nationalist.
Yes.
Him and Stoddard, they both.
And this is where they're trying to, at this point, white nationalism is being developed more and more. And the white nationalists started, and you know what, that 1619, they're actually trying to say that it started there, right? Where, I mean, but they're literally lying, knowing the whole reason why they went to West Africa and stole Africans and kidnapped them were for their skills.
Yeah.
They purposely took there was a city called Benin in Nigeria, a city named Benin. You can look this up. It had no crimes, had no jails or nothing like that. The walls were bigger than the wall of China. You can see it out of space. Out of envy, they bombarded and blew it up, tore it down as ruins. Because they don't want us, they don't want people to know who they are. It's the whole reason why they took our history away from us. It's the whole reason that they want you to read. Their whole behavior and tactic that they did was, it wasn't just, why did they hide it? You know, because it was intentional. It wasn't like a by mistake. And they understood, and part of the book talks about the fear. That's I don't want to go there yet because it's coming up, but because of the fear. When they started going around the world, they discovered they were the minority. And that's Frances Cross Wilson's one of her theories.
I was just going to
Yeah,
say,
they have it
so,
here too.
so they have the two counter theories, inadequacy and demelanated, from Richard King, is it? Richard King? Francis Cress Welsing. So
Yeah, I was just gonna comment
Now,
that the whole impetus for introducing all these different white nationalists is that at that time, what they were trying to do is reinforce their definition, so they could care less about anybody else's. And even to the point where you ask about contributions, they didn't see anything that anybody else did as a contribution either, right? It was what they had done. And they took all along the way, they kept taking and taking from everybody else, but not taking it in the sense like, I'm going to steal this idea because you had a good idea. It's more like, no, you can't even see this idea as anything good because you're not like us, you're not developed to that potential. So they just disregarded anything anybody else did and more or less that's how they created that whole imagery, right? Their definitions of what they've done is that they're superior, even if they stole it. We know they stole it. Even you couldn't even go against them by saying, oh, well, you stole our idea. Well, no, you weren't even capable of doing it from their eyes, right? So I think that was just to reinforce that in order to have this white nationalist idea, you had to disregard anything that anybody else.
serious cognitive dissonance. It was serious cognitive dissonance. And the example that she has is the Dervidians. If you know the history, the Dervidians were the ones who created those temples, those great monuments. And also they were responsible for the actual spiritual component of India until the Aryans came in and created the caste system of them being better. They were the ones, they had to escape. They were killing them and everything, you know. And now this is the first time people were like when these Talmuds came over, they're like, genocide wasn't like a real phenomenon, you know. And so people were surprised. And so these people, they came over, the Aryans took over, changed the whole religion, Hinduism, got rid of the Dravidians or made them they're in the bottom of the foot.
Yeah, because they were black, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And So they were constantly seeing Black people creating high civilization and cultures. They were seeing this throughout the world as they travel. And what they were doing is, we need to change this. Because they knew they tried mingling. They tried the mixing thing, and they found out that ain't working. And so they created this caste system. And Hindu, man, to be a Hindu now, that's why the whole argument with Gandhi in Ghana, when Dr. Campbell lobbied to get rid of the statue of Gandhi. Because Gandhi actually went on a hunger strike because he wanted to maintain the caste system. He didn't look at Africans friendly at all.
Mhm.
And when he got dissed by the English and was like, no, you over there, he didn't like that. So this is why we have to really do the work. We really need to know the history, and we need to stop being parrots.
Okay, so
There was something I wanted to look at, and I think let me see if it's in this section. I'm kind of underlined it. Let me see if it's in.
Is it Extreme Fecundity by Stoddard?
Hold on.
oh,
Because this whole section was a good section.
Mm-hmm.
I like. Okay, it is in this section. Because I like this thing because in some ways, you know how we talk about conservatives and liberals? Here, she talks about dominative races and liberal as adversive races.
What page?
yeah,
What
yeah,
page you
yeah,
looking at?
On
yeah,
page 288.
yeah.
And I underlined that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to just bring it to light because these are things now that we're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you got MSNBC, who's considered a liberal. I think they're more centrist right in terms, and we're using their terminology. Now they got centrist right, centrist.
Yeah, I think what she did in that little section there is kind of differentiate between how both the different people articulate this very same thing. One makes it sound very direct. They don't care what you think about it. And then the other one comes at it from a more academic point of view, where
Yeah.
it's more acceptable to, like, even to us, it will be acceptable the way it's put. So that way you kind of buy into that whole idea that
Well,
are inferior, Yeah.
Lindis and Veronica, I hear them say Donald Trump all the time, and I'm like, no, Donald Trump is the dominative. Bill Clinton, Hillary, and all the Obama, because I'm gonna put Obama in there. They're the other version, the aversive.
Aversive. Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say that. I just thought it was like kind of a sleek way to adding that in there.
Mhm.
Anything else? Anybody?
I'm just looking at
No.
the last paragraph, but there was something before this.
Yeah, when they talked about the different countries, and they actually included Japan as the only non-right country that they considered, that even gained consideration.
And Israel.
Yeah, Well, Israel is considered white as well, right?
Mhm.
So you
Well,
see,
now, I mean, currently they're looking for allies, right?
yeah,
So what they do now is they change it for their needs to maintain power.
yeah,
It's that Asili is like, we need to maintain power all along. So they'll tweak this whiteness thing, right, and create, another caste system. Like in the United States, how Asians got, an anti-hate crime bill passed, and nothing for African Americans. Their first try, they got it. How many times did I think is every year they're trying to pass something?
still can't get it done.
Since the civil rights, been 50 years.
Well, that's because the yellow, the brown, and then the black. We know
Yeah.
that. We know that.
Yeah.
Bottom of the ladder, right?
Yeah.
Bottom of the totem pole.
Also, I want to address, they use concepts like third world, primitive,
Yeah.
They play with words. That's why, like, the Native Americans or white man speak with forked tongue.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it.
Yeah. So, we got to be careful with what they say, because is it, what they're saying doesn't match with their behavior and their actions.
Yeah.
Public policy does not need to be written.
Mm-hmm.
There was a part that they were talking about. I mean, this was further up. I think it was 284, near at the very bottom, when they were talking about Europeans becoming aware of the extreme minority status in the world, and that the realization caused a psychological response. Through a process of reaction formation, they have changed a desired characteristic like blackness and color into a devalued one. And in reverse, whiteness or lack of color then could be valued. Yeah, I think this is really the again the whole impetus for this, because they could see that they were the minority, and in order to give that minority status that they have more power, or to fulfill that asili, they had to make sure, and I think that's the one of the very fundamental basics of it, that to ensure that the color blackness could never be the one that was dominated. White had to be the dominant color. And
okay, sorry, I thought you finished.
I was just going to say, in order to do this, it meant that they had to consistently devalue anything that was that related to or was black.
Yeah, or non-white.
Mm-hmm, non-white.
Mm-hmm.
And or they also added people, right? Because the Irish weren't considered white, the Italians were not considered white, the Jews were not considered white. They came later, and became white.
Didn't own land wasn't considered white.
I didn't hear you.
Trey, say that again.
I was saying, like, people that didn't own land wasn't considered white. Like, when they was just chilling off in Britain. If you ain't own land, you wasn't worth nothing.
Yeah, that changed in the United States, right? When, again, I think it was they
probably wasn't using the word white, but they definitely
no, they started using the word white in the United States. They weren't using the word white in Britain. The whole concept of white was starting in the United States. There was Michael Imhotep. He did a recent interview with a professor. I'm gonna send you guys the link. He'll tell you the dates and when those happened, if you guys are interested in that. Would y'all be interested in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think in England it was more about the classes as opposed to the colors.
Yeah,
because we didn't
they
have
were peasants, and they were the lords, and it's all a hierarchy.
And also it was almost, it was mono, it was like, it was mostly whites in Europe. So
But that, I was going to say, because the norm was white, so you didn't have to stay white, because that was the norm.
But if y'all interested, I'll send you guys Michael Imhotep interview with this professor, and I think he's like trying to correct the group that's trying to do the 1619 project, and he makes a good point.
What do you meant with Paul Hillen?
He actually makes some good points in that, if you guys interested. Would you be interested?
Sorry.
What he does, he gives you references, dates, exactly, like he gives you legal documentation. He talks about legal documentation, how they change colors. They start using colors, and because there was a period of time where there was some free blacks and all that, and so free Africans, because again, there's such an anti-African sentiment that us calling ourselves black is almost like bad, right? Because it's not like, it's so much anti-African stuff. Black is we're playing in that dichotomy, you know what I'm saying?
Just using the word.
Where when we say African, it comes with its own asili, it comes with its own view, it comes with a underlining unifying culture. That's why they want us to focus a lot on ethnic, like nations and stuff like that, because they want to divide all the time. It's part of the tool they use to maintain power.
And then you have Stoddard, who refers to, on page 287, the extreme fecundity or fertility of the Negro, and labels him as the quickest of breeders. So they also are afraid. Towards the end, they talk about, to end of that section, what is it? The threat of black fertility, because it threatens white dominance. The anxiety is consistent with the European Asili, Utumawazo, and Utumaroho. So they are afraid of us procreating to the point where we wipe them out.
I mean,
what do you have to say about that one?
I want to hear everybody else's opinion.
When I said, what do you, I meant the general you. We know it's true. So really.
They're struggling against it.
Struggling, but still trying hard. There's a whole bunch of images I could cut and muster up about that, but I won't.
Guys, I want to.
Can you run that by me one more time? So I'm hearing basically we are trying to get people not to have babies. Is that what I'm hearing?
You're too fertile, Trey.
Yikes.
They're afraid of that fertility.
They're afraid of your fertility, bro.
Oh, are we using words so we don't use other words?
Yes. We're being recorded, so it's gonna be a little bit careful. But I think you'll understand.
Reminds me of, how they used to say, if you had one drop of black in you, you were considered black. And the way how they kind of categorize people based upon if you had any contact, or if you had
the one drop rule, that's what they called it.
Yeah, that's what, right. So they had to have that mentality, because if the black gene was so dominant, still is so dominant, that if they had acknowledged that there was even one drop of white blood in anybody, right, then it could wipe out their whole civilization already, right?
They said that not knowing that everybody has
Out of black, yeah,
in
the
them.
origin of people, if they had acknowledged the origin.
Smokes and mirrors.
Who says
But
they
maybe
don't
they
know?
know and they're trying to do that
That's
little
what I'm
twist
saying.
around thing again.
It doesn't matter if they know or not. The whole idea is, in order to maintain dominance, you have to
It can't
do
be
what
real.
they're doing, because it's the minority trying to rule to dominate the majority.
The
only way you can stay superior.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
I said that's the only way you can stay superior.
Yeah.
It doesn't that, at least in in Europe, doesn't that or doesn't the bloodline when that justify your claim to the throne and your claim to the land as well?
Supposedly.
That's why they was
the problem
like
with Europe,
things like that.
With Europe, right? This is why part of the reason why they thought this way is because they understood, they already knew after 2-3 generations, you're mixing up the royal family, they start getting kooky and crazy. And a lot of the royal families, because of the small gene pool population, were developing like schizophrenia and things like of that nature. And they saw like, okay, we need to, to the point where they had to marry African royalty. And that's actually documented because they needed to diversify the gene pool, and continue, with that bloodline, right? So they needed to add gene pool. And so they understand, they understand to a certain level what genes are, what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And so this is why, when they asked Meghan Markle, like, what's the color, they were afraid that the baby would be black, because they understood that Harry may have some black in him. And so, Meghan Markle baby may come out looking like Robert, right? And then people, how the tabloids and all that, they're gonna go crazy. And then with genetic stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's why we don't see the genetic, like the royal family are so public to a certain extent, but we don't see their genetic tree. They'll show you their, like, the royal family tree and all that, but let them do a DNA test. And then you wonder where Prince Harry got that red hair from.
That afro.
But they actually know, because a lot of that is kept very secret.
Yeah, they do know.
Princess Charlotte, remember I sent that email out about Princess Charlotte, who was a black woman who was married to the king at the time. I forget what the name of the king was, but they know they have black in their genes. So, but they talk, the thing is, the way that they portray it now with Meghan is that, because she's black, her child might come out looking black. They're not actually going all the way back. I don't know that they are going all the way back and thinking, oh my God.
No, they are. I think they are, right? Because
we don't really know, because no one's spoken to
hold on. Meghan is not like, we say she's black, but if you look at her, she could pass, right? So when that baby come out looking like Leroy, then they'll be like, that's too much. Like, where there has to be more. Right? Because Meghan's father, I think the mother is black, right?
Yeah. I think the father's white.
African American. And so
the genetic chromosome,
and so the baby,
it can go anywhere.
It can go anywhere.
And it doesn't have to be because you have the genetic pool going back hundreds of years. It could be just Meghan and Harry, and Meghan's genes linked with Harry's. That's the 1 out of 4 chance. So, you know.
No, but you know, it increases. If Harry got black in him, it increases the possibility.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're talking about.
It's
And that's
very much-
and understand. See, we don't care about this stuff, but they really care about this stuff.
Mhm.
That possibility, like you know how we're talking about like the possibility, they are super, super nervous about this. So imagine, like we're like, oh, we don't know, you know, it could go anyway. That's what frightens them.
Yeah.
And then knowing Harry doing what he's doing.
That's why nature's so lovely.
I think
because
that's
you
why,
just
that's
don't
why
know.
they banished them. I think that's one of the reasons.
No, I think we can't talk on behalf of Harry and Meghan because we're not really in their circles. I would not like to put upon our thoughts about what they're thinking.
Please, you sound British. You sound British. We can talk about that because it's in the public, and they brought it into the public. So what are you talking about?
I will second you, Miss Linda.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Trey. I'm always going to get somebody seconding me somewhere. Whoops.
Robert don't even know what you just said.
It was good. It was good, Robert. It was good.
Robert, I'm starting to realize Robert is trying to be a devil advocate with me all the time. So I'm gonna have to get him. I'm gonna have to get him.
Hey, I agree with Raw on this.
Thank you. We're gonna have to bring Robert to the manosphere.
Okay, so
Right.
that was a long conversation about question 1. That was great.
That wasn't question 1. That was
Now I think we moved on to a different
we went to the
question.
second section.
Yeah. Oh, but we didn't talk about the enslavement though. So
Yeah.
we should go with that one.
So actually, you know what? I had a question that was oh yeah, okay. How is the interdependence of the relationship between European enslavement of other people and the European image of others demonstrated in this chapter? And essentially that's section 3. The slavery, its aftermath, and the image of others. So how does the interdependence between the European enslavement of other people and the European image of others demonstrated in this chapter? I think we sort of touched on some of it.
That is a real complicated question right there.
I know.
Listen, Linda's been putting some questions when I
was in a good mood yesterday when I wrote these up.
Yeah, I read.
Hold on. The question is, Linda, explain your question because that's like
Okay. How does the maybe I'll go backwards. The European image of others, which is what we've already been discussing, right? Others, negative, black, all the negative words, right? How does that come into play with the relationship of how the Europeans enslaved our people? It gives it justification.
Hold on. How is the interdependency in the relationship between?
The image of the others feeds into the fact that it's okay to enslave Black people. Does it?
I think what's throwing us off is you saying interdependency.
All right. Okay.
I think that's what it is. But you're saying, well, the best way.
The question.
The best way I could answer this question and trying to understand it is they are capable of enslaving, killing, eating, and making furniture out of people because they view us as the other. That's the and all that has happened. There's even books on homoeroticism and slavery, and stuff like that, and rape.
Oh yeah.
You know,
definitely.
Trust me. We have a tendency to talk about when females were being raped during slavery. But one of the things that they don't talk about, and I actually I took a course, were the amount of men being raped. Rape was institutionalized. It was it was a way to break people. And we all know about butt breaking, right? Buck, B-O-C-K.
B-O.
Buck, like a deer.
Oh, okay. Right.
And so a lot of times we're being murdered in the streets, and we don't look, we're always looked at negative because they're viewing us as the other. A lot of the social problems we're having now is they're viewing us as the other. Oh, they can't lift themselves up. Why we gotta help them? When their very policies and their very actions is oppressing people that they consider the other. The concept of police brutality exists because of the concept of the other.
Yeah, it's all dependent.
Hold on.
The
Do you understand that, Robert?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Just trying to make sure, because I see you making faces over there. Unless you farted.
Oh, he's being interrupted by his wife. So what about the aspect of cultural racism as feeding into the...
Lindis, can I ask Lindis what she meant about interdependency?
Yeah, that's why I think
that's what I was saying. People I think that word right there is not a good word.
Are you saying am I hearing it right in regards to basically like the Sealy has this understanding of the other, and then how does that understanding of the other then like how does that understanding of the other interplay with like your interaction with people with darker skin? You know what I'm saying? Like I already have this understanding of there's other and there's people that's bad, and then I come across people with darker skin, and it's like, okay, now I'm projecting that concept of the other onto the people with dark skin, or is that not what we're talking about?
Well, first of all, you're saying the Asili in the wrong way. The Asili is about them maintaining power. The Tamawaho and Tamarozo are part of creating a culture and the method of the maintenance of that power.
And it all stems from the Asili. It all stems from the sea.
It all stems from, like, look, if you look at the chart.
Yeah.
The need for power. That's why it was important to really look at the beginning chapters, because if without the beginning chapters, you will not, like, you will misinterpret those terminologies. But look at the chart. The chart breaks those things down. And so because they always have that capacity, they're always dividing things. See, creating a dichotomy creates the other. And it doesn't necessarily, it's the other in regards to everything else. The plants, the trees, the universe. This other exists in every aspect. They divide themselves, separate themselves from every aspect of life. And so when they don't, like, if you're connected, for instance, you're connected to your child, right? You don't see yourself killing that child because there's a connection. It'll be real, like, even if you and your brother are having an argument, y'all may fight, but it won't be to the point of killing each other. You won't slice his throat and all that, like, unless you're like lost somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And so they have the capacity to kill millions of people and not care. They have the capacity to annihilate the buffalo to try to gain land and starve out the Native Americans. They have the capacity that ability to look at the other allows you to drop 2 atom bombs. Even after they already have won the war and the Japanese surrendered, they dropped those 2 atom bombs, knowing there was a 50% chance that they could blow out the atmosphere. And they did it because they wanted to see, well, they said, well, we built it, like, well, let's test it out. That's history. Now, I don't know how they teach it in the school, but that's history. I don't know how Veronica and Robert are teaching that. I'm telling you what the history is. So, like, let me ask you a question. Let me ask everybody a question. Would you launch an atomic bomb knowing that you already won a war with a group of people that you're war with, and at least 50% chance of the possibility of blowing the entire atmosphere and killing everybody and everything in the planet? Would you launch that bomb?
You know, it will be no.
No, it's because you're gonna be thinking.
Will you launch that bomb?
Robert might.
Like, I'm not going to explain this right, so I'm saying, like, I just feel like anybody has the, like, somebody with that, if you were to hand somebody that type of, let me try an analogy, like in Lord of the Rings, like
no. Let's deal with Robert.
You hand somebody that type of power. Like, you hand somebody that type of power. Like,
we have had that.
All right, yeah. I'm just saying I don't know anybody in the history of ever who's had that type of power and hasn't abused that type of power. So it's like, if I had that power, would I not abuse it? I mean, historically, I don't know anybody that's had that type of power and not abused that type of power. That's what I'm saying.
There has been people with that type of power and haven't abused it.
I think if that power existed.
Hold on, we can't separate that power in general, right?
Yeah.
Nobody in this planet has committed genocide like this. It wasn't part of anybody's culture until the Europeans came along.
People
and really, this is history. This is something that is actually known. They know this.
Yeah.
So let Eugene.
Let me
and then Veronica.
Let me just say, the whole idea of a group of people dominating or wiping out another group is something that has to come from inside, and that's what we're going through here, is that the Asili drives them to do this. This is specific to them, right? So other non-European races didn't have that type of worldview where they would go and just wipe somebody out because they thought they was different to them, to make them feel good, right? You have your culture, and your life and everything is based on your culture. It's not based on what somebody else is, right? Whereas theirs is based on what you are and what they make you to be. So to say that another culture will just do that for the sake of dominating, I don't know if that really would happen. You have to have that in you.
It hasn't happened, and it could have happened.
Okay, Veronica?
Yeah, we've been given opportunities as well to annihilate them, and
Yeah.
we have not taken that because we have a different concept of life, of the whole of nature, of the whole universe. All right, because of that, we wouldn't be driven to do what they would do. They could easily do that because the Sealy demands it. The ultimate power, and to do that, they have to have objects to the objectification of others. That's what drives that for them. But for us, we wouldn't do that because we have a whole different a Sealy. We do. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, we're different. We're not like that. We wouldn't think.
Well, you know, everybody responded to Robert.
Nobody else? You want to go now?
So my my statement is I don't know anyone in history who's had that type of power who hasn't abused it. That is my statement. I didn't say whether I pressed the button or not. I'm just saying I don't know anybody that has that type of power. I don't know any person that had that type of power.
Robert, there were people with the type that. What is that type of power? What are you referring to? What are you referring to?
The type of power to press a button and set off and drop bombs. Like I don't know any
people have that power now, brother. What you talking about? That's the thing. People have that power now. India has that power. China has that power.
Are they using it?
People could launch if they wanted to, could launch the bombs right now, but they don't. Also, when we talk about that power, I'm not separating that from all the other massive power of killing that could happen. There were groups of people that always had the power to annihilate other groups of people throughout. And so you're saying that you never seen power, like people being able to have power, but not going out and abusing it, like killing people and committing genocide?
I mean, if you got an example, I'm a student. I'm here to learn.
I already told you. I gave you some examples.
Somebody that's got that type of power to push a button and destroy a whole city.
No, listen, it's not the power of killing, brother.
Well, that's one. Yeah.
We're using a contemporary one, and I went through a whole series of what they do. Mm-hmm. Is the other allows them to do that.
I completely agree. Well, I guess I don't know. So, in regards to it makes me think of one. It makes me think of a couple things. And one, it makes me think of this the debate. You remember James Baldwin had a debate with, I think, William Buckley, and he was saying, I think the question was, how does the American dream come at the expense of the American Negro? And basically Baldwin was saying, the American dream is a false premise, that don't even exist. What you're really trying to say is, does one culture have the rights to extinguish another culture? That's what you're really trying to say.
You mean an ethnic group, one ethnic group against another?
No, I'm saying I might be paraphrasing, but he's saying basically, does one culture generally have the right to come in and distinguish another person's culture? Can that be right? Can that be righteous? Can that be morally justified? He was saying that's what you really are trying to say, because essentially that's what's happening to the to the Black people, or that's been the Black people trying to keep their culture while the majority culture is trying to extinguish them out. He was saying in a concept, that's what he was saying, that's what you really mean when you say what's the American dream at the expense of the American Negro. And so check this. So my brain was like, okay, cool. Like, is that can be morally justified or whatever? I mean, I would say no personally. I'm gonna say no. And then I'm gonna look at, like, when I'm looking at history, I'm trying to figure out, well, like, who else had that type of opinion? You know, when in the story with Cain and Abel and how they say like that's supposed to be,
That's not
or some
history.
people say that it's supposed to be eight. I'm not saying it's true.
It's not history, and we
like
just
really
went over
talking
those
about,
things, brother.
I'm talking about the mythology behind it, in the sense that like it's one culture versus another culture. One person takes the other person out just because
Bro.
they believe that they were offended by the other person, and they like had that, like it's the first story in the book. And if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. I know that you will, but like,
what book?
If I'm not
What book?
like some people, yeah, I'm not saying like I'm not even saying that's a history. I'm saying that's a human thing. Like that's one of
No,
the
it's
earliest
not. That's
stories.
what you've been taught. That's what you've been taught in this Western paradigm. But
I
if
thought all those things were supposed to come from Egypt.
No, what you talking about, bro? You like, bro. bro, listen, bro. You need to really the history of Kemet don't have anything in regards to annihilating a people.
They don't have no story in there where two brothers was fighting each other and one brother killed the other brother.
No. It's not like that. This is not, they're not dealing with human beings. They were
I don't think they were either.
Yes, they are. That's the this is the they were dealing with literal. They deal with stuff literal. What happened to the, if you look at Kemet, right? The closest story to one brother fighting another brother is Set and Osar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this the resurrection, right, of Osar, right? Now, Osar basically he was dethroned. He wasn't dead because if he was dead, he would not have Haru, right? So it's not the same. You can't compare apples and oranges.
I think we have an unfair disadvantage because we don't know all of the stories of Kemet. So
no, it's not an unfair disadvantage. And Lindis, you're messing up. You're messing up because this is the book's purpose. The book purpose is to create challenges, right? And if we look at human history, we can't look at human history just when the Europeans tell us to look at. We got to look at the whole human history. Japan had the at the time of Japan, when Japan was at its top, they invented gunpowder. They could have used it and destroy people. And what they did instead was create rockets and celebrations and stuff like that. They could have used it. Guess who used it? When they went to Japan, guess who switched it and made projectile weapons? The Europeans, when Marco Polo went over there. Remember that? And so there's you see evidence throughout. And I'm not going to tell a historian.
Hitler and the Jews.
Yes, I'm not going to tell a historian. Yeah. When I'm told that you can't see that in human history, then to me it's like then you don't know history, because there's countless of examples. There's people who have massive power and didn't annihilate other people. You know, gunpowder was a nuclear weapon at that time.
Yeah, that's what they used to dominate the world. You know?
Yeah.
That's it. That very same
The Zulus were calling them cower sticks. Be like, yo, they're not man to man. They don't want to fight with us man to man. And still was able to push them back to create treaties and all.
A lot of times too, our focus in terms of inventions and that sort of thing was not based upon destruction, right? So I think also the purpose for which we did things was a whole lot different from the purpose of the European. The European always had that because they always wanted to dominate. They always had that power that they had to fulfill. So a lot of, even when they came in contact with other cultures and civilizations, they didn't even look upon, I think it talks about this in here too, when they were going to visit and a place, and people would be so accepting of them and bring them in and into their culture. And what do? Right? They went in there to overtake, to suppress, to dominate. And so their whole idea of even interacting with others was not one of caring or liking or learning or even learning from. It always was to take. So I think if you go with the whole idea that you want to take and you want to control and you want to dominate, right? The purpose for what you do, how you do things, you have no care for the people. It's nothing to you to wipe them out. Even when you looked at the whole idea of slavery, and you look at how slavery was in different places, there was always slavery. A whole lot of other peoples had slavery, but the brutality and what they had contributed to that whole idea of what being a slave was totally different from other people who had enslaved others.
Yeah, it wasn't chattel slavery.
No, it was very abusive, and they looked upon you more as an animal. You were not another human being, right? So even the way they looked at you could allow them to commit atrocities that we think about. Even today in war, when they go to war, look at the Vietnam War. If you go through and you study the different wars and the actions of people that were European, their actions was never, ever, there's nothing called humanity with them, right? So they could do things like this. They can just act like that. We would have to think twice, 3 times, 4 times. We would have to think like them to act like them.
And I think
that's what they were creating.
I'm thinking of the war and the Afghanistan war, where a lot of the soldiers came back and they just kept saying, we don't even know why we went there. We didn't even know why we were there. This was not a fair, well, it wasn't fair. But they were questioning why they were even sent there, because they were killing people that were not soldiers. Mm-hmm. So that was
well, let's use the book, right? For example, there's in African culture, there was no separation of spirituality. So all that took place. We weren't compartmentalizing our minds into different things. We were looking at the whole picture, right? So if you personally took an action, you look at the whole picture, you move based on that. Here in the West, you compartmentalize, and and there's massive effects. For example, a lot of these cats, when they go to war and they do several tours, how it's almost difficult for them to easily come back to society. You can't train a person to be a killer and then come back and be civilized and and there's trauma with that. And it's because they haven't looked at the whole picture, and so they separate things, right? So they separate spirituality. We can look at the chart again. This chart, and this is what they do. The first chart, a thinking being. They take out spiritual being out of it, and they call that the knower. This is Plato. And remember, they study this. They vibe with this reality. They take the meaningfulness of what reality is and they call it facts. And then the experience and the phenomena, they take away the interconnectedness of everything that is happening in the world. And they create the object, you know. And then here, the European ego plus detachment
Right.
creates this way of rationalizing destruction and what I will consider uncivil and savage behavior.
Yeah.
And so that's this. She's analyzing this through an anthropological lens, you know. And so what she did is she looked at African terminologies that help her explain these things. And she saw that in Africa, they actually thought about this because you have these terminologies that can actually fit in these things. You know? And so that's where it coming from. I mean, right now, we could deal with the next portion or the next question. Because I don't want to this has been overkilled and beaten. And I don't want Robert to feel bad either.
And now on the time, it's 8:51. So the next question is all about the media and the negative image of others. And how does that affect the consciousness among people of African descent? How does the writer describe the contribution of the media to the negative image of others, and how does that affect the consciousness among African people or people of African descent?
I mean, there's some things that are always being said, right? We're always portrayed as emotional, you know. You got love and hip hop. Look at everything that, you know, you have these Tyler Perry type movies, which all have the same theme, and you know, in some ways, that's what made Bill Cosby a threat, right? Because Bill Cosby was the man in the house. Actually, there were doctors. Both parents were doctors or lawyers. One was a doctor and a lawyer. Successful parents. So Bill Cosby actually became a threat. The show Bill Cosby, you know, and he was one of the ones, you know, a lot of people looked up in the 90s, looking at that as something, as a positive image versus a lot of the negative image. And actually, Bill Cosby was battling this stuff too. Even though he himself wasn't personally a good representative, but these are things he was calling comedian up. He didn't like when Eddie Murphy was constantly cussing and saying the N-word. Him and D. Hell Hughley had a beef because he told D. Hell Hughley he need to stop using the N-word. And but people knew, you know, some people claim that, you know, they knew his background. Like, how dare he try to tell me what to do? But there's constantly negative media pushed out there. So when a black person gets shot, right? They tend to immediately put that person past, look for something negative, and quick to release it versus someone who's white. You know, I've seen a guy who got stabbed in the neck, and the cop refused. The white dude stabbed the cop in the neck, and the cop refused to kill him. Maintain his composure and tase him. You know, where you got a 12-year-old kid with a toy gun in a park playing by himself, and in seconds, I think it was 5 seconds or less, shoots the kid. and then it's looked at, and the constant saying, oh, he's big, bad, I was afraid. I mean, we already know this stuff. Do we really need?
Yeah, that's questions. I mean, that's out there in everything that they project. They always project it as a negative if it's dealing with people of African descent, and that kind of feeds on
Well,
it. And what it does too is allow the people who are the victims now to kind of internalize that, and so they end up buying into it as well, and that makes it even worse, right?
Well, these cable news media, right? The cable news media, every time they have people who are finance people, lawyers, and they come in and talk. But when they bring somebody black, it always have to be a rapper or some type of entertainer. They never use like a scholar, black scholar, or anything like that. Once in a blue moon, they'll use Cornel West. When it comes to politics, they will use that. But when they talk about finance, serious political issues, or something like that, a lot of times they tend to, and I don't know if you guys know this, when there's something happens in the neighborhood, they tend to interview, they pick some of the most craziest, dumbest people to talk on in the news to explain what happened. Crazy.
Okay, you want to do the other one?
Okay. Okay, in this chapter, how does Annie describe the characteristics of the non-European? Does this hinder or help where we are now? Well, I think she describes based on the people she quotes, describing the characteristics. And this question was really around page 307, really.
Yeah.
307.
They have a long list of Europeans are rational, others are irrational. There's a long list
Yeah, that was
of each.
Oh, you went ahead?
Well, that question was based on the last couple of sections, actually.
Yeah, that section actually is the second half.
Yeah, that's further back. I didn't know that.
That's the second half question.
307. That's the end.
Yeah, that one was based on the
That ends the whole chapter.
We talked about the media.
Image and value
Yeah,
definition.
that last question is about the last couple of sections.
No, the European response and the non-European, that's the next section coming up. We were reading 20 pages.
Oh, we're not finishing the chapter? We weren't finishing.
No, I don't think we're moving on to the next section.
This is the last two sections of chapter 5.
Yeah.
The last two sections of chapter 5.
7.
Yeah, 307. That's the ending.
Image and definition.
Image and value definition.
Yeah.
I thought you said you just wanted to read the 20 pages.
20 pages?
That's what we agreed last week.
That was stop us earlier.
I thought it was the whole
I thought we were doing the whole chapter.
No, I wanted to do it the whole chapter, but you guys said, no, let's just do 20 pages.
I thought you said the chapter was 20 pages.
Yeah.
The chapter is more than 20 pages.
I know, but so what did people do? Did you read the whole chapter or did you just read 20 pages?
Well, I read the whole chapter.
Up to 20 pages.
Everybody read the whole chapter?
Did you read the whole chapter?
It was a short chapter.
It was short. It was pretty short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys can answer that question.
And that last one, that last section there, to me, really pulled together everything. It summed up all that was being said in the chapter, especially how the comparisons that were made there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, exactly what we're talking about, how they saw themselves and how others compared to the whole self-image that they had. Okay. And because of these images, then it led them then to be thinking of themselves as world saviors, conquerors, organizers, peacemakers, and how others became those objects that they could control and manipulate. So to me, that was exactly what all, even when we were talking about the media is the same thing. It was like a tool for them to just reinforce their own self-image and cause us now to accept that their image is what we needed to strive for. Right. And to me, by identifying those two areas, it made it so clear, so plain that these are how we see ourselves a lot of time by theirs. We see ourselves as sometimes we call ourselves lazy or superstitious and uncivilized, backward. How many times have you heard people saying that of their own selves? As if that's their image, and it's not. It's the one that
I've seen people say racist stuff like white nationalism talking points about themselves.
Yeah. So we internalize their image of us as the others. We're seeing ourselves as the others, and we can never become what their image is, what their image of self are. So we end up in kind of a confusion as to who we really are and what we're striving towards.
So I wanted to read a section on page 306 under image and the second paragraph. The political implications of cultural imperialism become astoundingly clear. Functioning with someone else's definitions is dangerous to the self-image, the self-concept. Europeans are successful in their efforts to economically and politically control others because culturally they are able to force us to assimilate their definition of our inferiority into our own self-image, while at the same time gaining support for their image of themselves as superior. Again, the dialectic. Exactly what you just said, Veronica.
I would like, I would like to tie that also to the part, when she discusses appearance versus reality, what they do is they reshape reality. They create the appearance of something. And so what we do, we're in the Wizard of Oz story. Hey, Robert, how you old enough to know about Wizard of Oz, right? Okay. Because some people are nowadays, I don't know. Yeah, is Wizard of Oz, Dorothy and all that. A lot of people don't know about that anymore. But the appearance, remember near the end where they'll see this guy that can help them, and a hologram comes and it's like, and then the dog Toto goes and he grabs the curtain and pulls the curtain, and that's the reality, right? The guy is actually, and actually is a social commentary, right? This is why these movies were kind of like interesting. And so the guy wanted to create this appearance of master and all that, and he was a broken old man, right? Who was behind the curtain. And so the reality is this broken old man could just simply, regular dude could simply help them. And so the appearance is this hologram, this fake thing. Even we could bring the movie The Matrix. People living in the Matrix versus the people living in the real world. And so what they have done, and that's another social comment. Another one is Night of the Living Dead. There's many social commentaries that deal with this thing. So what that does is we tend to live in their world. They dictate the appearance, how everything looks. I remember when I was young, I used to tell people all the time, you could destroy America and all this stuff if you destroy the image, because that's what it is. There's books called American Exceptionalism is another book that talks about how people think versus what really is. Like people be like, oh yeah, we're number one. Oh, then you look at statistics and we're like number one in all the negative stuff. And we're in the bottom of all the positive stuff. And so, you know, there's a contradiction there, right? There's like something is not right, it's not fitting. And so people have analyzed this. And that's what she has done. She analyzed it and was like, you know, give us the origin and allow us to see that, you know, we're like the cause and the effects. She's letting us see the cause and the effect.
Yeah, I think it's like just bringing to light the illusion that, you know, what we see is not
What it really
what
is.
it really
or delusion. Like the illusion and delusion.
Made me think actually of a kind of a jumping off point for how I would use something like this at my school, teaching those grade 1 kids. And it definitely is looking at image, right? These self images. This is actually a nice, good, strong foundation, because it does make you examine exactly how you are seeing yourself, and also the definition of how someone, and I wouldn't say first who it was, but give all of these different characteristics here and just see what kind of image do you have of yourself? Where do you fit yourself in all of these? You know, but I saw it as this is a strong jumping off point.
I like the, you know, that test of the baby dolls that they did back then, and they recently did one, and it's still Black children still view Black babies as bad. Like the only way one viewed that as bad is that is being taught.
It's true.
It doesn't come from what's like. This is what John Henry Clark said: if your God don't look like you, then there's something wrong. Your God should look like you. You know, and things that you worship should look like you. You know, it should, because coming from within you. And so when it's coming from a foreign element, you know, the last statement that Lindis read is it nips it in the bud, basically. It becomes destructive. And then you wonder why you can't really, the confusion and the lack of success. Like what you'd be like, why it's hard? Why no matter what, you may even get all the money and accolades, and there's something still not fulfilling about it.
Yeah, I
and
think
that's because
I think it's the systems that's in place that's making it difficult because we have to live within those systems. And so in order to survive and to make it, or just to live, you have to kind of navigate within a system that was set up.
Do we have to?
You know?
That would be my question. Do we have to?
The thing is, I think what she's trying to get people to just open your consciousness to see that this is what it is, and not be, you know, as I said, not buy into the illusion, right?
Don't be mama guy by it.
You're living in it, but
hold on, what you said, what you said, Linda?
Don't be mama guy. It's a Trinidadian term. Mama guy. It means that don't believe what you're seeing, what they're telling you. Don't be fooled. Mama guy. I have no idea.
Back in the days, they used to even like in a hip hop culture, they'd be like, don't believe the hype. It's a sequel. You ever heard Public Enemy?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Remember, don't believe the hype.
Yes. Yes.
Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. And then I mean, there's plenty of stuff that we dealt with, and there, you know, even in terms of controlling the music. Remember how conscious music, the hip hop music was, and compared to what we're listening to now. You know, some of that music saved us. You know, and people used to rock you're too young for this one, but people used to rock medallions with the Africans and the circles.
They were a bit big though, Ra. Come on.
Huh?
A little tacky.
No, not those. That's the Flavor Flav clock thing. I'm talking about the medallion, the smaller ones that's like 3-inch diameter.
All right. As long as it's the smaller ones.
Not the clock ones where Flavor Flav
Big,
used to have cover his whole chest with a big clock.
The big clock, yeah.
No. But what happens was he was pushing against the appearance, right? Creating a shop. People are so want to be polished and want to be, people want to be part of something and don't realize that the very thing they want to be a part of don't want you. You are a battery, you know, and so
powerful.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question? This was a very wonderful discussion, people. 2 questions. One, did the questions help to get? I think everybody spoke. I know the questions were a bit tricky, but
Linda, simplify the questions. I think the questions were.
Do you know
questioning is great.
I went into chapter 6 and I actually I have 2 questions for chapter 6. Simple. So the questions actually, I did actually do 2 questions. If people are okay, I can throw them out, or people can throw their own questions.
But everybody should have a question. In the document that I constantly send, I say put a question or statement.
Yeah.
One is that's the only way we know you are reading.
Yeah.
It's not fair that I'm reading, everybody else is reading, and whoever's not reading, or we don't know that you're reading. So we need this will create more participation. One is because you have a question and we could deal with everything that you're thinking and help you explain, help you or just give an opinion, good input.
So it's not just for having a question, but also statements, because it might not be that your question is a question, but as you go through, there's a statement you might want to make or something you want to reinforce. It helped with the questions, because as I looked at your questions, and then I even went back to see what that area really was trying to say. As I said, that was a really rich, this chapter was so rich, because it wasn't so much like discovering a whole lot of newness, but you know what, you could see the whole book come together. That's not the whole book, the first part of what we did. You could just see it all coming together for this part, for this one chapter kind of thing, You
know what? This chapter I think could have survived by itself as an essay, but I think it would have not been as fulfilling without having the back 1, 2, and 3, 4, even the introduction, because it actually, that what you did is it. And listen, guys, I don't know if you know, we halfway. I think we passed the halfway mark of the book, and so being able to tie all this together is very important. And you're really doing yourself a disservice if you're not looking back. And going through, always doing this. You gotta vibrate. Gotta repeat.
Because she, I mean, the stuff that she did in this chapter referenced stuff from the very first chapter. She kind of brought it back, right back to Plato.
Please, people, review Asili. The need for power, right? It's not something that is generated. It's something that is already there. From that need of power, all these other things are happening. And it's interesting because it's just the way it's almost like the Big Bang, right? The Big Bang, there was a point, then everything else came from the world came from this. That's how that whole explanation that she got reminds me. But also there is supportive works, and you know, in the future, hopefully we can read some of those supportive in the future.
Yeah.
So my next question is, are we going to read chapter 6?
Yeah.
It's about 20 pages.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're gonna read chapter 6.
Um,
Without
Let's
knowing
don't
how
say
many
things,
people today.
because then somebody will get confused.
3:11 to 3:31.
Hey
Just-
guys, listen. Just for the sake of understanding, your questions don't have to be this overwhelming like Linda's question. Like, I mean, some of that stuff, Linda, you was trying to outdo yourself. I mean, like, come on, Linda.
I did.
Great. Don't listen.
Keep it simple and concise. This is not a British school.
I liked your question.
Took off some of the stuff off after I read those
They got the
questions.
they got the
This
conversation
is simplified
going.
version.
I got Robert. What did you say?
Robert, what did you say, Robert?
I said they got. I thought they did the job. Like we had a whole conversation on.
Think about the positive, not the negative.
All I'm saying is because people, I don't want people intimidated by these how big those questions are.
They were great questions, Linda.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they were great. They were
I
great.
have 2 simpler ones for the next chapter. I'll try and
Again, I want to thank Linda's for her questions because when I sent the email out, I also want, because she did the work.
Yeah.
And if you want to respect her, you'll have your questions ready as well.
Ooh,
This is on the real. I'm speaking of grown people.
Yeah.
I'm speaking of grown people.
Mm.
And you know, we all need to put their input. You know, I'm waiting for the day Giami take over one of these days and bust everybody's brains apart. I'm waiting for the day Robert comes in and bust our heads open with some stuff, and everybody else.
But I think the questions focus the discussion better as well. That's why I thought, let me just see. And the reason that I did it now like this is because we have got a lot of the background that, as you say, this chapter is more meaningful because we've gone through all the hard work. I'm not saying we're finished with the hard work, but the whole concept of what the book is about, the terminology, the language, the new words.
She romanticizing. Look at her. She romanticizing. Yeah. She went to another book club and saw that the idea of having questions worked. That's what she did. Don't be lying to them, Linda.
Why reinvent the wheel? There's nothing wrong.
Listen, she finally realized that my email had a point to it. She's like, oh, I didn't know that what you had to do. I'm like, yes.
Robert, I think I'm going as well because he was nice and then he turned it around on me. Okay. Chapter 6 next week. Questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to do chapter 6.
Veronica.
All right, hold tight.
Bye, Nyame.
Bye, Nami.
And Mrs.
Adios.
All right.